If we keep our minds shut, locked away from higher awareness, then we're not truly living. We're just functioning inside a closed loop. Imagine the human body and mind like a biological computer running a program, repeating behaviors, thoughts, emotions over and over. But without that spark of true consciousness, of our higher self flowing in, it's as if humanity is operating in a sealed system. There's no room for originality, no room for divine insight, just endless cycles of reaction. What we are then, in that state, is the program running the program. Ancient mystics, the Gnostics, spoke of strange beings called the archons. They were described as invisible influencers, forces that live just outside the range of our senses. They don't confront humanity directly. Instead, they slip into the psyche, quietly steering perception. They don't need to imprison you in chains when they can confine your mind. Through manipulation of our thoughts and beliefs, they shape reality itself. Most people, they warned, go their entire lives without ever having a single original thought. Every emotional response, every belief, every value, they're all borrowed, inherited, programmed, conditioned. It raises an unsettling question. How many of the people we pass by every day are actually alive inside? Are they truly sentient or just performing? The mystic Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, more than a century ago, dared to suggest something chilling. Through her studies and spiritual experiences, she proposed that there are beings walking among us who look human, act human, speak like us, but are not spiritually alive. She called them human shells. These shells are missing something essential, the divine core, the soul that connects us to the eternal. They are vessels without light, people who breathe, speak, and work just like the rest of us, but are fundamentally hollow within. And she wasn't the only one. In modern times, figures like David Icke have echoed this idea. He speaks of shadowy forces working through empty vessels, leaders, influencers, cultural icons, who are not guided by soul, but by something else entirely. They are pawns in a hidden game, operated by forces that seek control rather than truth. Long before him, the Gnostics offered a nearly identical warning. They believed that not all who wear human skin are animated by spirit. Some, they said, are trapped in flesh, unable to access the knowledge, the gnosis, that awakens the divine within. These soulless ones, they live, yes, but only in the most mechanical way. They respond to stimuli, they mimic behavior, but their inner world is silent. There is no reflective thought, no inner journey, no soulful longing. They are, in essence, human-shaped automatons. And here's the question we must now ask. What if this isn't just poetic metaphor? What if these ideas, shared across eras and cultures, are pointing to something very real? That's what we're going to explore. This journey will take us into the ancient teachings of Blavatsky, through the warnings of Gnostic texts, into the modern reinterpretations by thinkers like David Icke. We will explore how to recognize these soulless entities, and more importantly, how to ensure we ourselves don't fall into spiritual sleep, because losing your soul isn't just about others. It's a danger we all face if we stop seeking, stop questioning, stop evolving. Helena Blavatsky's story begins in the 1800s. Born in Russia in 1831, she dedicated her life to uncovering the hidden truths buried within spiritual traditions across the world. Her travels took her from the temples of India to the ancient ruins of Egypt, learning from mysterious teachers and spiritual masters. Her legacy was theosophy, a movement aimed at blending the spiritual knowledge of East and West into a single current of truth. Her greatest work, The Secret Doctrine, became a foundation stone for modern esoteric thought. And within those pages, she presented a stunning view of the human being, not as a simple body, not even as just a mind, but as a layered being with 7 distinct principles. These layers include the physical form, the life force that animates it, prana, our emotional drives, kama, the lower mind, manas, higher intuition, buddhi, and finally the divine spirit, atma. It's the atma that connects us to something higher, a divine intelligence that transcends the physical. That is the spark that makes us more than animals, more than machines. But here's the key insight. Not every person has all of these elements active. Some never develop the higher parts. According to Blavatsky, the soul, what she calls manas, is a bridge. It links the base human with the divine. But this bridge can weaken or even collapse. She wrote that the soul can, in fact, die, even while the body continues living. This isn't a death of organs or flesh. It's a death of connection, a spiritual fading. If someone descends too far into materialism, into cruelty, madness, or moral corruption, they can lose contact with their higher self. The bridge to buddhi and atma dissolves. What remains is a hollow form, a shell. From the outside, you wouldn't notice the difference. They walk, talk, and function normally. But there is no light inside, no sense of presence, no I am. It's as if you're speaking to someone behind a mask, and behind the mask, nothing. An echo chamber. Imagine the human body as a vessel, a container meant to hold light. That light is your spirit, your consciousness. When the connection is strong, the vessel radiates. It thinks independently, it creates, it loves. But when the light fades, the body doesn't stop. It continues, but only on autopilot. Blavatsky said this isn't a punishment, but part of a greater cosmic process. Life, for her, is a vast school, a ladder of spiritual evolution. Some climb upward, connecting deeply with their higher nature. Others fall backward, sinking into the gravity of base desires and ego. Those who fail to evolve become spiritually stagnant. They get stuck in lower realms of existence, what she called kama manas, or the mind ruled by cravings. In another work of hers, Isis Unveiled, she drops a bombshell. The age we live in, she said, is an era marked by the mass death of the soul. We pass by people every day who are, by her definition, spiritually gone. And in today's world, numbed by consumerism, obsessed with image, detached from meaning, doesn't that ring eerily true? Think about people you've met who seem to function like scripts on repeat. They echo TV opinions, they chase pleasure, they fear silence. They never seem to ask real questions, not about life, death, truth, or self. They can fake emotion, but there's no depth. They perform empathy, but don't feel it. The spark is missing. It's in the politician who parrots agendas, the influencer who chases fame without substance, the neighbor who lives by slogans. It's all around us. Blavatsky believed that this hollowing out of humanity makes people vulnerable to external control, and possibly even to spiritual possession. She proposed that certain extreme mental states, like psychopathy, complete emotional detachment, or certain forms of madness, could be signs that the soul has departed, and into that vacancy, something else may step in. This is where the theories of David Icke build upon her work. He argues that when a person loses touch with their own soul, they become a host, an open door. Forces beyond the human, what the Gnostics called archons, can then enter and influence. To Icke, the world's elite, those who pull the strings of society, are often soulless puppets, or worse, possessed by the very forces that keep humanity asleep. For the Gnostics, this wasn't just a metaphor either. They believed in a cosmic deception. The material world was not divine, they said, but a trap. a construct ruled by a false god, the demiurge, who fashioned a world of illusion, a world where souls are imprisoned in flesh. To them, there were three kinds of people. The hilics, those bound to matter and without soul. The psychics, who possess some soul, but remain asleep. And the pneumatics, those with soul and spiritual knowledge, the rare awakened ones. They believed that most humans fall into the first two categories. Only a tiny few attain real gnosis, self-knowledge, divine insight, true liberation. David Icke reframes this ancient duality in modern terms. He talks about the matrix, a simulated reality designed to numb and distract. He speaks of interdimensional reptilian entities, literal or symbolic, who manipulate the world through fear, division, and deception. These entities don't care about humans. They care about control, and they work through soulless agents who look human but aren't connected to anything real inside. So what does all this mean for us? It means we must wake up. We have to question our thoughts, examine our habits, reconnect with what is real. Because the biggest danger isn't just being surrounded by empty shells, it's becoming one of them. That is what the rest of this journey is about. In the next segment, we'll dive deeper into the signs of spiritual sleep, the ways systems and institutions are designed to keep us disconnected, and what steps we can take to reignite the spark of soul. Because the battle is not out there, it's within. There's something haunting about the idea that the soulless walk among us, not just in ancient texts, not just in myths, but right here, at the bus stop, in the grocery store, behind the desk next to yours. They wear the mask of personhood, but inside, there's no fire burning. Just a flicker, if that. No dreams, no questions, no sense of the eternal. And if you've ever looked someone in the eye and felt like there was no one home, you've felt it. Blavatsky wasn't painting a fantasy. She was laying bare a truth few dared speak. The modern world is a breeding ground for spiritual decay. It doesn't just tolerate the soulless, it produces them. But how did we get here? It starts with something invisible, not in the mystical sense, but in the practical. Systems. Our lives are structured by invisible frameworks: education, religion, entertainment, media, politics. They are not just guiding structures. They are factories. They mold minds. They shape behavior. And most importantly, they suppress the soul. From the moment we're born, we enter the machine. School teaches us to sit still, follow instructions, memorize, and regurgitate. Questioning? That's punished. Obedience? That's rewarded. It's not about awakening your inner self. It's about becoming a functioning cog in the economic and social order. The Gnostics would have seen this as the work of the demiurge, a false god who fashions a false world, convincing us it's all there is. Blavatsky saw it too, an age of spiritual collapse, where the sacred is traded for the material, where people chase empty rewards and forget to ask the deeper questions. And those who lose their connection, their soul, become shells. Hollow beings shaped by external influences. The soulless don't question the system because the system built them. Their beliefs, handed to them. Their morality, packaged and sold to them. Their fears, their goals, their sense of self, not formed through experience or introspection, but implanted. They are what the system wants them to be. And here's the terrifying part. It feels normal. When nearly everyone around you is asleep, sleep feels like reality. When everyone is playing roles, performance becomes identity. And in this collective trance, those who try to wake up are seen as insane, dangerous, threats to the script. But cracks appear. And through those cracks, some of us see the strings. Let's talk about what science is beginning to discover, because ironically, it confirms what mystics knew centuries ago. Studies in neuroscience, like those from Benjamin Libet and Daniel Kahneman, reveal that up to 95% of our thoughts and actions are automatic. They happen without conscious awareness. Think about that. The vast majority of your day, the words you say, the way you respond, what you believe, is driven by subconscious programs. These patterns are formed early, especially in the first 7 years of life. In those formative years, our minds are wide open, like soft clay. And what happens? We're shaped by our environment. Family, television, religion, school, culture, all these inputs write our operating system. And once those programs are in place, they run the show. Unless you interrupt them, unless you become aware, they define your reality forever. That's how the shell is built. That's how the soul goes to sleep. You grow up thinking you're making choices, but you're really just reacting, repeating, performing, living a life not authored by you, but by the system. The result? A society full of people who mistake routine for truth, who confuse familiarity with meaning, people who echo opinions they've never questioned, who live for validation, who fear silence, because silence brings them face to face with the void inside. And so, to fill the emptiness, they consume food, news, drama, distraction, anything to avoid hearing the voice within, which, for many, has grown faint or vanished completely. But here's the miracle. The soul doesn't die easily. Even in a world designed to suppress it, it can be rekindled. The first step? Awareness. We must learn to see the programming. You're not just angry. Your anger might be a learned response. You're not just ambitious. Your goals may have been planted. You're not just afraid. Your fear might not even be yours. This is what the mystic Gurdjieff called self-remembering, the art of watching yourself from the outside, not judging, not reacting, just observing. It's like waking up inside your own body. You begin to ask, wait, why did I say that? Why did I believe that? Why do I want this? These questions are seeds. They crack the surface of the shell. Blavatsky taught that the manas, the rational soul, can either rise toward the divine or fall into base desire. It's a fork in the road, but you don't rise by accident. You rise through effort, through will, and the system will resist. The moment you begin questioning, you're labeled, dismissed, mocked, not because you're wrong, but because you threaten the trance. Society is a sleepwalking crowd. When someone wakes up, they make noise, and noise disrupts the dream, but disrupt it anyway. Let's talk about what these shells look like in the real world. Not monsters, not demons, ordinary people. But their lives are narrow, predictable. There's no sparkle in their eyes, no depth to their thoughts, no originality to their words. They live through patterns, talk in loops, react to the world rather than create within it. Some are aggressive, some are kind. But the common trait, they do not question. They do not evolve. They do not seek. This doesn't mean they are evil. It means they are empty. And that emptiness is exactly what makes them useful to darker forces. David Icke describes it like this. Once the soul is gone, something else takes its place. A parasitic energy, an entity that feeds on low vibrations, fear, anger, lust, despair. These beings, whether real or symbolic, influence from behind the curtain. And their perfect hosts? Those who have no resistance, no inner light. That's why the soulless rise in power. They're predictable, controllable, willing. They lead nations, they run companies, they entertain the masses. not because they're wise, but because they're useful, and the world worships them. But they are not your model. They are your warning. We were not meant to be shells. We were born with a spark, however dim, and the ability to fan it into flame. But it requires rebellion, a quiet inner revolution. Reclaim your time. Reclaim your mind. Detach from the noise, from the endless scroll, from the political games, from the culture of reaction. Begin to sit with yourself in silence, even if it's uncomfortable. Because in that silence, something stirs. Something ancient. Something eternal. Your soul remembers. It remembers what it means to dream not of things, but of truths. It remembers how to feel without numbing, how to think without being told, how to act from love, not fear. That is the beginning of awakening. And it's not glamorous, it's not flashy, it's not found in spiritual cliches. Awakening is raw, painful, lonely at first, because as you rise, you leave behind the crowd, you stop seeking belonging, you start becoming whole. The mystic Curado Malanga once said that those with soul are drawn to freedom. They question everything. They follow no leader blindly. They live in alignment with inner truth, not outer systems. Those without soul, they cling to rules, to identities, to hierarchies. They don't know who they are without a label. They define themselves by their job, their tribe, their status. Without the system, they dissolve. That is the tragedy of the shell. It cannot exist on its own. But you can. You were not made to conform. You were made to evolve. You were born to carry light into dark places, not to avoid the dark, but to illuminate it. And here's the truth that echoes across the mystics, across Blavatsky, across the Gnostics, across the thinkers and rebels who refused to sleep. You are not a machine. You are not your programming. You are not a slave to your past. You are consciousness itself, experiencing this life for a reason. And that reason isn't to accumulate. It isn't to obey. It isn't to be liked. It is to remember who you truly are, to reawaken the link between mind, soul, and spirit, to rebuild the bridge, to refuse the lie that you're just another cog in the wheel, to choose presence over performance, truth over comfort, depth over ease. Because the world doesn't need more shells, it needs souls. You've already taken the first step by listening. Now let's keep going. Waking up isn't what most people think it is. It's not dramatic, not cinematic. It doesn't come with thunder or visions or glowing halos. More often, it starts with discomfort, a restlessness, a low hum inside that says, something's wrong, even if you can't name it. That's how awakening begins. It doesn't shout, it whispers. Maybe you're sitting at your desk and you suddenly feel hollow. You've done everything right. The job, the degree, the promotions, but it all feels plastic. Maybe you're scrolling through social media, and instead of feeling connected, you feel like a ghost drifting through a digital crowd. Maybe you wake up one day and realize you don't remember the last time you made a choice that felt real. Not programmed, not expected, just real. That's the soul knocking. Because awakening, as Gurdjieff put it, is not accidental. It is an intentional act, a commitment, a revolt against the inertia of a system that wants you compliant, predictable, and quiet. But the path isn't easy, because the world isn't just passively asleep. It actively resists your awakening. See, there's a powerful illusion at work here. Comfort. They require you to be afraid, confused, asleep. But when you wake up, they lose. And this isn't just personal. It's collective. Each soul that awakens weakens the illusion. Each person who begins to live authentically becomes a beacon, a reminder to others that another way is possible. You don't have to be a guru. You don't need a robe, a mantra, or a temple. You just need to be real, to speak truth, to act with soul, to live consciously. And yes, sometimes that will hurt. The truth often does. You'll see things in yourself that are ugly, patterns you've repeated for years, hurts you've buried, lies you've told yourself to stay safe. But facing these is not weakness, it's the greatest strength, because you cannot heal what you will not see. And when you face your shadow, when you walk into the darkness of your own being, you find your light. That's the paradox. The way to the soul is not up, it's in, down, deep. And as you go deeper, you find the bridge again. The connection Blavatsky described between the earthly and the divine. The manas reawakens, the buddhi begins to guide, the atma, the spirit, returns to the center of your life. And suddenly, things begin to shift. You stop chasing what doesn't fulfill. You stop fearing what you can't control. You stop playing roles. You begin to live, fully, freely, fiercely. This is the new human. Not a shell, not a servant, but a sovereign soul, walking in the world, but not of it. And the most beautiful part? You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to get it all right. Awakening is messy. You'll fall asleep again. You'll forget. You'll slip. That's okay. Just come back. Come back to the breath, to the silence, to the stillness. Come back to yourself. Because the real you is always waiting. Because awakening is not the end, it's the beginning. And your journey has only just begun. So you've begun to awaken. You've seen through the veil. You've started to question what you used to accept, to feel what you used to ignore, to become present in a world that thrives on distraction. You've cracked open the shell and found a light inside. But what now? Because awakening isn't a one-time event. It's not a destination. It's a path. And like any real path, it requires commitment, attention, recommitment. The hardest part isn't waking up. It's staying awake. The world doesn't want you conscious, not because it's evil, but because the systems that govern it are designed around sleep, around predictability, around control. And the moment you step outside that system, you become a wild card, a variable, an unknown. That makes people uncomfortable. It makes you uncomfortable too, because suddenly there's no map. The script is gone. And now you have to write your own. So how do you walk in a world that is still, for the most part, asleep? First, with compassion. It's tempting, when you begin to see clearly, to feel anger or superiority, to look around and think, how can they not see it? How can they still be living like that? But remember, you were there once too, and you didn't wake up because someone shamed you or shouted at you. You woke up because something stirred within you. A whisper, a crack in the surface, a moment of pain that led to presence. Others will get there in their own way, or not at all. That is their journey. Your job is not to save them. Your job is to embody what it means to be awake, not to convince, just to be. And in your being, in your living truthfully, something powerful happens. You become a mirror. Not everyone will like what they see in that mirror. Some will push it away. Some will get angry. Some will mock you, dismiss you, ignore you. Let them. You are not here to fit in. You're here to remain whole in a world that wants you fragmented. So how do you do that? Start by protecting your energy. In a world full of noise, silence becomes sacred. In a world of reaction, stillness becomes a superpower. Don't let the chaos around you dictate the state within you. Blavatsky spoke of the soul as a bridge, one that can be strengthened or severed. That bridge is built through presence, through intention, through choosing, again and again, to return to your center. meditation, reflection, time in nature, creative expression, authentic conversation. These are not luxuries. They are lifelines. They keep the bridge alive. And just as important, watch what you consume. Not just food, but information, entertainment, social media. Everything you take in becomes part of your mental and emotional ecosystem. Are you feeding your soul or numbing it? Are you choosing depth or settling for noise? Every day, in small ways, you are either aligning with your essence or drifting from it. Choose alignment. And what about the soulless? The human shells? The ones we spoke about in the beginning? The ones who seem to live on autopilot, who echo, who obey, who exist without truly living? Don't fear them, but don't follow them either. They are part of the environment now, like background static. They may outnumber you, but they hold no real power over you unless you give it to them. Their strength lies in conformity, in repetition, in numbers. Your strength lies in presence. Where they react, you respond. Where they follow, you lead. Where they seek validation, you seek truth. And the more you live this way, the more the illusion falls apart. The system loses its grip because you're no longer hooked by its bait. You don't need its rewards. You don't fear its punishments. You have become, in a very real sense, ungovernable. Not by laws or society, but by unconscious forces. And that is freedom. But it comes with a cost. Because freedom isolates you. Not forever, but long enough that you'll be tempted to go back, to dim your light, to just play along, to avoid the conflict. Don't. Your loneliness is a sign, not of failure, but of growth. You're shedding a skin, stepping out of a collective dream. And yes, that means for a time, you will walk alone. But others are out there. Not many. But they exist. You'll know them when you meet them, by the way they listen, the way they speak, the way their presence calms your nervous system. No need to perform, no masks, just presence. These are your people. You won't need to convince them of anything. You'll just recognize each other. And together, you begin to form something new. Not a movement, not a religion, just a frequency. A subtle web of awake souls scattered across the planet, all walking their own path, but resonating with the same truth. This, more than anything, is what the system fears. Because awakened souls, even if few, carry a presence that cuts through illusion. Their energy doesn't just resist programming, it rewrites it. Their very existence challenges the lie that we are all just bodies. Just numbers, just tools. You are proof of something more. But don't mistake that for a messiah complex. You're not here to be a savior. You're here to be you, fully, truly, unapologetically you. And in doing so, you give others permission to do the same. This is how the world changes, not through force, but through presence. So now, let's talk about purpose. Because when you reclaim your soul, you reclaim your direction. And here's the secret. Your purpose isn't something you figure out. It's something you remember. It's not a job title, not a brand, not a mission statement. It's a feeling, a state of being, a way you move through the world. When you're aligned with your soul, everything feels different. Time slows, synchronicities increase. You stop pushing and start flowing. You don't chase outcomes. You follow the energy. You don't seek success. You express truth. And somehow, miraculously, that becomes enough. That becomes everything. So how do you stay there? Keep choosing. Every day, every moment, you are choosing. Soul or sleep. Truth or comfort. Presence or programming. And you won't always get it right. You'll fall. You'll forget. You'll get sucked back into old patterns. That's okay. The soul doesn't need perfection. It just needs your presence. When you stray, return. When you numb out, wake up. When you react, reflect. That's the work. Not grand gestures, not spiritual theatrics. Just this, 1,000 tiny choices to stay conscious. And if you ever doubt that this matters, look around. Look at the state of the world. The fear, the division, the emptiness, the soullessness. This isn't just theory. This is reality. And the only antidote is the awakened human being. You. You who remembers that you are not just flesh and bone. You who knows there is something eternal within. You who refuses to trade your soul for convenience. That's what the Gnostics taught, what Blavatsky knew, what every mystic, rebel, and awakened soul across history has whispered, that consciousness is rare, that the truth is hidden in plain sight, that most people are sleepwalking, but not all. Some wake up, and once you do, you are never the same. You see the game, you see the trap, you see the beauty too, because awakening doesn't make life easier, but it does make it real. You start to feel things deeply, grief, yes, but also joy. You stop avoiding death, and in doing so, you start to truly live. You don't need to escape the world. You just need to stop letting it define you. Live in it. Play the game if you want to. But never forget who you are. A soul, a spark, a fragment of the divine, walking through the dream, leaving ripples wherever you go. So when you wake up tomorrow, choose again. When the world pulls you toward sleep, breathe and return. When doubt whispers that you're crazy, smile and go deeper. This is your journey now. Not to be followed, but to be lived. Fully, fiercely, freely. Because no matter what they say, no matter how loud the noise gets, no matter how many around you fall into the script, you are not a shell. You are soul. And that changes everything.